format, first, thank you for the recording. So the name of our series is Wellbeing in ELT Teacher Prep Programs, Observation, Feedback, and Soft Skill Development. This is our theme today. A little bit of housekeeping to start things off. If you could mute yourselves except when you are presenting or speaking, asking a question, that would be helpful. Please get comfortable. We have a format today of 2 30-minute presentations followed by about 10 to 15 minutes of discussion. So a little different format than the last two, keeping things fresh. And you'll have a chance to talk at those times during those question and answers. If you need to get something to drink, get some water, some tea, some coffee, a little snack, keep you going through this, this presentation. So please take care of those needs now. Again, want to welcome everyone for being here. We're so happy that you made it and so happy to have you take part in today's webinar. I want to start by thanking the U.S. State Department, the Regional English Language Office that serves Ukraine, for the funding that put this program together. We've been working together for almost a year now, about a year now, and our focus has been on teaching or supporting TESOL faculty to improve ELT prep programs, the teachers with the latest tools to equip their teaching and keep them running and moving along. You'll notice the title of our webinar series is Holistic Language Pedagogies, and this is very intentional. Our approach has been holistic, has been to look at the whole student and the whole professor and teacher as well during this time in Ukraine particularly. Through our project, we've had the opportunity to work with the fabulous Dr. Laura Becker and many other professors and supporters in the City University of New York through different virtual and in-person exchanges. So it's been a great time, and we've learned a lot and we've covered a lot, and we're going to get to more today. So my name is Meg Riley. I'm with the Center for Professional Learning at CE International. Our organization, CE International, is committed to finding innovative solutions to the biggest challenges in education. So that said, want to start getting to our fabulous presenters today. And again, our format will be a presentation, about 30 minutes, and then we'll have about 10 to 15 of Q&A. You'll want to make sure that you have a notebook and pen, take some notes. You can also put questions in the chat while we are moving through the presentation. So with no further ado, I want to introduce our first presenter, Dr. Tetiana Kondratieva, and her topic is feedback as a means of establishing teacher-student communication. So Tetiana, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Meg, for this wonderful opportunity to have this great experience of presenting to a great audience of professionals and to be a part of this wonderful team. So, to begin with, I want to say that I'm not going to pull down monuments today. I just want to share with you some of my insights that I have, some of my practices that I do, and talk about feedback as a means of establishing teacher-student communication. I really appreciate this opportunity that was provided by Regional English Language Office and these wonderful organizations like CE International and Center for Professional Learning. And so here I represent my my alma mater, my native pedagogical, Volodymyr Hnatyuk National Pedagogical University from Ternopil. So let's start. Just a moment. I want you to reflect for a while. Just pause and reflect. Think about the time when you were traveling in an unknown place and got lost. While you're trying to do something to move on, it could be an unknown city or a forest or wherever. but you still are not sure whether you are on the right way to your destination. How do you manage this situation? Who or what can help you out? Would you appreciate someone reassuring you that you are on the right way, or if not, then suggesting you where to go? So think about these feelings that you have. And I would like to start with such metaphor that our learning process is like a long road. We go along this road, and sometimes we need extra help to we need someone to reassure that we are going the right direction, or if not, then what to do better, what to put more emphasis on, where to put more effort. Keeping this in mind, I think that this function of redirecting or reassuring whether we go a right way to destination is played by feedback. If we refer to the definitions of feedback, it is defined as information provided by an agent. It could be a teacher, a peer, book, parent, or self, or experience regarding aspects of one's performance or understanding. Some more definitions. Actually, feedback is information given to the learner about the learner's performance relative to learning goals or outcomes. Feedback redirects or refocuses the learner's actions to achieve a goal by aligning effort and activity with an outcome. It should be aimed at improvement of students' learning. So these are the definitions that we have in mind. So the topic of my presentation was feedback as means of establishing communication between learner and teacher. So we need to look closer into communication, which can be explained as the exchange of ideas. And I want to emphasize this word exchange and thoughts within two or more individuals. This exchange of ideas could be done either in written form or by gestures or by symbols. And communication is continuous transmission of a message among two or more individuals, the sender and the receiver. So teachers, when practicing giving feedback to their learners, must remember that it's a form of communication. Feedback is a dialogue process, mostly two-way, in which specific information is exchanged about student observed performance, comparing it to standard required, given with the intent to encourage and facilitate students to improve performance. Getting back to our road metaphor, by directing them to the correct path, by showing them a better way to get to the destination. In fact, feedback may take any form. It could be just an advice given by the teacher, or some insight, an idea that would help students to redirect their actions and performance and their behavior. It could be a response to students' questions if they have any. It could be an opinion expressed about their overall task or performance. It could be a comment or rating by assigning some grades or a score, a point. When we talk about types of feedback, or I would rather say like forms of feedback, we may say that we might provide feedback verbally or non-verbally. When we talk about verbal feedback, this is particularly great in classroom activities. It allows a teacher to give an immediate critique, or it's important to keep it positive, since it is not it's in front of class. Given a simple pointer on how to better pronounce the word or use the correct pronoun can be very helpful in the moment. In other words, verbal feedback, it's when we express our opinion about the learner's performance. However, we may also use nonverbal feedback or nonverbal communication to help students realize where they are moving the right way. It could be a simple nod, a smile, or a thumb up gesture, or if we talk about young learners, it could be a sticker. And this small gesture, this small body language may either help students realize that they are going in the right direction, they are doing well. When you nod, a smile, it definitely encourages them and motivates them to go on. Or if you just shake your head or just give some sign that, well, just think about what you're doing right now, stop here, that helps to redirect their performance. Feedback may be both oral or written. As to written feedback, I guess it's clear. This can be expressed by a short letter at the end of a written task the student had performed. When we talk about oral feedback, it can have different forms. It might be a mini counsel session a teacher may have with learners individually, or it might be generated feedback to the whole class about some task they perform. Or it might be a simple encouragement that or a comment at the end of oral presentation students do, like in the end of a speaking task. When they perform a dialect, the teacher may present oral feedback immediately. Feedback is not only positive. Of course, positive feedback has its great function because it encourages, it boosts motivation of a learner. However, I find negative feedback, if like taken wisely by the teacher, even more productive. Because when students are always only praised, there's little room for improvement. However, negative feedback has its function in showing what goes wrong, what is the mistake, and helps learners not to get lost. Then we move on to the next classification. We may talk about qualitative and quantitative feedback. And in this, we may oppose these two ways of giving feedback by teachers. Grades, which refers to quantitative feedback, and actual feedback. Grading assigns value to student output, while feedback, qualitative, provides students information about what the instructor found to be well done and where the content or accuracy or of the text can be improved. So I wouldn't be that categoric as this picture on my slide, like stop grading and start giving feedback. Grades are important. They have their own function of showing the general level of your learners in the class, of providing information to authorities or parents. However, qualitative feedback is more effective for improving learners' individual performance. If we consider grades, they provide numerical or other score, like we have 12-point system in Ukraine at school, or 100-point system or letters A, B, C, D at the universities. That's what students get. However, if we can get back to our finding way metaphor, would it be okay if you are lost in the forest and you ask someone, or well, let's say not in the forest, but in a like unknown town, and you ask someone, am I going the right way? What can you say about this route? And he says, well, C, or 70%. This will not be helpful. It will not give the direction then what to do with these results. So grades assess results and focus on current achievements, where you are now, while feedback provides actionable information. It gives the hint what to do with these results. It analyzes performance rather than results. And of course, by these, it triggers intrinsic motivation to improve, to go further, to change something. The researchers, Nicole and McFarley, did define these three conditions which are necessary for effective feedback. We start with analyzing and evaluating the current performance of learners, which can be also done by grades. However, what an effective feedback aims at is the desired performance. And the necessary component of this process is how to close the gap between the current performance and the desired performance. And teachers should keep in mind all these three stages when giving feedback to their learners' works. Feedback has several functions. It improves learning by confirming, it confirms whether the learner is on the right path, on the right way, whether the learner has remembered and understood the material correctly. If not, then feedback has the function of correcting or fine-tuning the learner's performance. Feedback restructures knowledge and skills by showing what way to take, where to move. And in this way, definitely boosts motivation to improve. The next thing I want to talk about, it will be like a logical continuation of my previous presentation, that we have several stages of feedback. And we start with feed up. That is by making goals clear. In order to get somewhere, whether in learning or in real life, in achieving some results, we must have a clear idea what is the goal, where we want to be. The learner must be aware of where is the learning going. And these goals, this is very important, must be appropriately challenging. If the goals are too challenging, it won't motivate students to move on. So the teacher must discuss the goals with learners. The next stage is feedback, when teacher monitors and assesses students' progress toward the goal. In other words, the teacher assesses where is the learner right now. Is he doing well at this stage? This stage provides evidence of skills, knowledge, and performance relative to performing tasks. And the next stage of feedback, of effective feedback, is giving directions to where to go next. And it is essential to devise plans and steps. How does the learner get there? The teacher must clarify these steps that students need to take to achieve goals, and if necessary, adapt or change activities to meet students' needs. The next thing I want to discuss is the levels of feedback. What do we address when giving feedback? There are three options, and by structuring them in the form of pyramid, I align different significance to these three levels of feedback. I would start with personal feedback. When we provide feedback to our learners on personal level, we refer to their psychological and cognitive abilities, like saying, you did great work, you're a really hardworking student, or you need to work harder, you were a bit too lazy. However, this kind of feedback, when we praise or criticize or want to address the personal qualities of learners, they are not related to the task itself. They are directed to the individual. And this kind of feedback is considered to be least effective in reference to academic performance. If we express our attitude to learn as this, we say, well, I know that you're always a diligent student, you are great, and you are always working very hard. This may produce a little bit opposite reaction. It may cause fear of making mistakes, because in this case, learners will be afraid to upset students, to upset the teacher, and consequently, this may increase the effective filter. The next level of feedback I want to talk about is task level. When teacher provides immediate reaction, immediate feedback to the task the learner performs, to some particular separate task. However, these kind of feedback is not also very effective as if we refer only to this particular task, because this cannot be transferred to other tasks. And the most effective level of feedback is the process level, when we encourage transferring and improving learning strategies, when we analyze how the learner achieved positive result or why the learner hasn't achieved positive result, by analyzing the way they did it. And in this way, if we address the strategies, the learner can remember what strategies were effective, which were not, which were ineffective, and the next time they can transfer these strategies to the next test. So it doesn't mean that we should exclude personal task or task level of feedback. It means that we should follow this cone up to the peak. We should start with personal encouragement, then we should focus on one particular task, and finally we should focus on how the positive result or success has been achieved or why it hasn't been achieved. Talking about qualities of helpful feedback, we must say that good feedback is always constructive. That means that we not only say what was wrong, but we provide tips how to improve it, how to change it, how to overcome these difficulties. The next, so constructive feedback, it builds students up by showing them how to improve. The next thing we must keep in mind is that feedback must be specific. If we provide just a general comment like you should work more on prepositions or revise your tense, knowledge of grammar tenses, for example, this will not provide a learner with specific information. What particular prepositions should he work on? What particular aspects of grammar tenses should he or she address? Feedback must be specific, because then the student will just get stuck. Okay, I can't revise all the tenses, or I do not know all the prepositions, and then they will give up and do not move further. And logically, feedback must be concrete. Yes, so once we provide feedback, we must specify and give concrete feedback, explain what particular aspects should be addressed. Feedback must be practical. This means that giving feedback must be timely and fresh, and it must be achievable. So realistic and achievable, so that students could feel that they can succeed and get this sense of achievement. And of course, it must be timely. I guess that's the problem of many teachers, because we are overloaded with different tasks, and sometimes we cannot give feedback immediately. But this is really essential, because if we do not provide information on time, then we will miss, and the gap, we will miss this period for improvement, and we will go further in our learning, and there will be a gap between the material that has not been learned properly and the next stage. So remember that your feedback must be specific, concrete, constructive, practical, and timely. So here are some tips, general tips for teachers on how to give effective feedback. Remember that feedback must be balanced. Do not only criticize or focus on negative things that or mistakes or the weaknesses, but try to encourage your learners by giving some praise, by focusing on their strengths. Always get into a relaxed state, because once you are too strict with your learners, they will not comprehend you properly, and this feedback will not be effective. When given oral feedback after, for example, speaking task, do not always correct in the moment, because it will discourage students from proceeding the task. Try to refer back to something students already know. This definitely will boost their confidence and give them sense that they are not completely tabula rasa at what you are talking about, that they do know something, but just give them a hint, how can they learn even more? Sometimes you need to focus on the end goal, not just on the immediate language production. When you provide your students with further prospects, that may encourage their performance, like saying, well, maybe this task was a little bit weaker than the previous, but I hope that the next one will be more successful, and eventually you will achieve this goal, you will learn this topic properly. And what is most important, which aligns with the topic of our presentation, is remember to listen to students' feedback too. That's important. Be open to the questions they ask. Try to focus on their needs, and then it will make cooperation effective. While giving feedback, use common, simple words. Do not overload with grammar terms or some methodological terms, because it will only confuse your learners. Be a good communicator. Remember to give feedback regularly, because it will help you to be on top of the things of the learning process, to see and when something needs correction, and provide this correction immediately, not to form this gap in the learning process. Be a good listener. Allow students self-assess. That's really essential. And always remember that effective feedback must be always accompanied by improvement plan, not only saying what is good and what is bad, but providing directions how to improve, what particular steps to take. When getting ready to provide a feedback, identify your learner. You must be aware of the learner's cognitive style or learning style, whether they prefer to auditory tasks or visual tasks, what strategies they apply. So that's essential, because it will help you to modify your tasks and to meet learners' needs. Think when and how to give feedback. Think about the place. If it's about oral feedback, think about the place and time when you can do it. Think about how often you give feedback, and how to create safe, not threatening environment for feedback. Because this will impact it will impact emotional state of your learners. As many of my colleagues in their previous presentations referred to self, we cannot do without self when given feedback. This is our favorite TESOL model of self competencies. And I will just give you a few hints on how effective feedback can promote social and emotional learning in your classroom. When we recognize one's strengths, and when a learner gets the feedback, he has the account of his or her strengths and weaknesses. And this helps to improve, to enhance and develop self-awareness. What I'm good at, what I'm bad at, what should I improve, and what should I go on doing, what should I stop doing. This consequently leads to improving self-management competencies. When learners get clear goals from teachers' feedback, they realize the goals, they are ready to develop plans to achieve these goals, they prioritize the tasks, they prioritize their behavior, what they should do first, what should they do later, and so on. Of course, feedback develops social awareness, because when accepting teachers' remarks, students may choose how to accept these remarks, either with gratitude and appreciation, or confronting the teacher's remarks. And even if the learner is a little bit hostile, then teacher must somehow solve this situation, and by providing feedback, make the learner able to accept criticism. Of course, feedback is the process of cooperation with the teacher to move on. Or if we talk about general feedback to the class, then learners may discuss with each other how they performed this task. What did they do well better than their peers or group mates? And this promotes developing relationship skills. Definitely making constructive choices on how to improve performance is, of course, enhancing responsible decision making. So feedback has several functions for students and for teachers. For students is the task planning and self-management. It's goal setting. It increases efforts. It's self-regulations because it motivates learners to develop new strategies, and monitoring. It develops growth mindset. How can I perform better? And of course, reflection and focusing on self. For teachers, it's of course goal setting. It's gathering evidence on students' learning. It's providing instructions for the next actions. We need feedback. How to improve performance. We gather evidence about learning related to learning goals and curriculum. We understand impact of teaching and adapt strategies to better meet needs of students. And we check whether students understand and react on feedback. And of course, we collaborate with our colleagues to develop new feedback techniques. I want to suggest just a few models of feedback. The most favorite one, or the most popular one, is sandwich model or kiss, kick, kiss model. When we first praise our student by focusing on their strengths, then we provide some criticism and finish with some positive remarks. Or it might be ask, tell, and ask by encouraging students analyzing and improving. The next model is eco model. It's more appropriate for oral feedback, for counseling. When the teacher must allow learner to express feelings, let the learner to decide outcomes and create a future plan. And generic model of feedback, when it provides for holistic comments to all students as a cohort for one assignment. And the teacher may say what went well, what to continue, what to be stopped, what to be started. And this definitely promotes teamwork and relationships between the learners. As I mentioned, that feedback is not only one-way process. The teacher needs feedback too. And when my learners, my students give me feedback, I appreciate it because it definitely gives me the direction where to go, what to improve, what to stop. So there are several ways to do it. It could be an exit ticket at the end of each class or at the end of a unit. Or it would be 1 minute paper, anonymous, of course, 1 minute paper when at the end of the lesson, learners give a short account of the lesson of a class or session that they got, and they say what they liked, what they disliked, what they had too much, what they would love to have more. And of course, course feedback. I must confess, when I get course feedback and it's all positive, and then say, well, we love the teacher, everything was great, we enjoyed the classes. Of course, I feel flattered by these comments. However, when I find among these comments some remarks, well, there were too many theoretical things, or we would like to have more practice, or that seminar was not interesting, I really appreciate them. And this is how I see how constructive feedback works and what is the value of criticism in giving feedback. One more thing just to think, if you wish, you may share your ideas in chat. What are the challenges for teachers in giving feedback? And while you're thinking and providing some comments in chat, I may share with, so feedback is my sore point. I always plan to give a lot of feedback to my learners, but then I somehow fail to do everything I planned. What are the main like uh, obstacles that stop us from this? Can you suggest? Yes, thank you. It's time
Tetiana.
consuming. Yeah, I see. So I finished. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm just wondering if thank you so much. I'm just wondering if we can include this great question as part of our Q&A and lead
Okay,
into that
good,
section
good.
if that works out. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
great. So yeah, so then we will discuss it. So and I'm just finishing the last
mhm.
minute. Yeah, of course, it's time consuming. It's too many tasks and emotional and ethical issues can get into our way. So we may limit amount of assignments, prioritize for learning by doing rather than assessing students, and get to know about your learner's strengths and weaknesses through observation, of course, practicing counsel sessions and giving generic feedback. And the last slide that I wanted to share with you is like digital technology can make our life easier. If we don't have time for written feedback, we may record our feedback using these wonderful digital apps. So to finish my presentation, I must say that feedback is a kind of GPS navigator of learning process, which tells you, okay, next, turn left, turn right, and in 10 minutes, you will reach your destination. So thank you for patience and for your patience and time, and I would appreciate your feedback to my presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. So wonderful, Tetiana. Thank you so much. I love how you wrapped it up with a 10 minutes to your destination. That makes me very happy to think about the GPS. Really, really well done, and such a great way to express feedback in such an intentional manner, which is such an important piece of it. So we do have some time right now for some Q&A. For those of you who have a question, I know that we had a great question at the end in the chat, and several of you are responding to those pieces. And I also appreciate you, Tetiana, asking for feedback for your presentation and modeling the methods that you employ. So I'm going to open it up if you want to unmute or raise your hand or put something in the chat, and I can help highlight that, or Tetiana, you can answer those directly, and we'll do this for about 5 minutes or so, 5 to 7 minutes for the Q&A. Does that sound all right to everyone?
Okay, I see in chat that many of my colleagues mentioned that giving feedback is really time consuming. And that's true. And that's the biggest problem the teachers have. So I have been thinking about how to overcome this, what to do. Well, because learners do need feedback. They need it. The grades is not enough for them. So I've decided to practice these short counseling sessions with each student, or provide generic feedback to the whole class, or so recording some audio files, it's faster than writing to your learners. It was even more challenging when we were online, because all was in documents. It takes too much time, and now I prefer when students pass my their papers in like their tasks on paper, and then I have the space and opportunity to comment on them and to write about their so Antonina, it depends what you want: content-based feedback or language-focused feedback. The way you present it. Okay. Thank you, Antonina, for your comment. And I saw in chat one more comment about emotions, that sometimes the students can be very reactional, and how to help them manage their emotions. And here Sal comes to stage, of course. So I guess that we must incorporate social emotional learning and prepare our learners for achieving, for getting the feedback, for being ready to deal with criticism, to realize that they are not only perfect, that they might have some weaknesses. And I guess here this kiss, kick, kiss approach helps. When we first say, well, you're a great guy, you did well, so this was great, this was great. However, there are some points that needs correction, so pay more attention to this, pay more attention to this was not good enough, but overall your performance was well. And I guess when we apply these methods, then students will be ready to accept criticism, because they will know that after the criticism they will be praised. So maybe this will like somehow lubricate this relationship between teacher and giving feedback and learner receiving feedback. And of course, this eco model, when we listen to our learners, why they had this drawback in performance. So maybe this will help.
Yeah, I really love again, going back to the metaphor of the road, and really looking at the end goal and what the end goal is. And I know that can be difficult with learners often, depending on their developmental stages, if they can really see that far ahead. But building those things in and looking past that immediate language production, that was a point that you made, Tetiana, that I thought was so important, because we can get really wrapped up in those, but we're really looking at a bigger thing. And if students can get there, that is really, really helpful, productive. So yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Tetiana before we move into our next presentation?
Thank you, my colleagues, for your support and attention.
Well done. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we are going to move into our next presentation on team teaching or cooperative teaching with pre-service English teachers, creating positive experience or EFL assessment within an SEL framework. And this is presented by Tetiana Korol. We are so happy to have her here. You can read about where she is and who she is. And Tetiana, with no further ado, I'll let you take it away and finish up our webinar today.
Thank you, dear Michael. May I share my screen, please? Thank you. Just a second. Can you see it?
Yes. It is up. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so dear colleagues, it's a great honor to be here today with you and a great privilege to present this workshop in front of such a distinguished audience. I'm really grateful to the project I had an opportunity to participate in, which was started and provided by Regional English Language Office and CE International. It was invaluable experience, and it was a great co-teaching and co-learning experience. That's why my topic may seem a bit tricky today, but what I'm going to talk about is rather simple, because we are going to talk about co-teaching and we are going to outline its main benefits. Sorry, let me be back. Then we are going to discuss traditional co-teaching models, and we are going to find out in what way we can implement these traditional co-teaching models into our English foreign language teachers training. And finally, in what way assessment plays an important role in all these processes and why it is interchangeably connected with social emotional learning. So let us start. First of all, talking about co-teaching as a method. Traditionally, it is treated like an educational innovation when two or more individuals come together in a collaborative relationship in order to share work and to achieve what could not have been done alone. So they contribute each other into the process of training their students, and in such a way they make them more proficient in the topics and they develop their skills better just because they cooperate. Another point of view on co-teaching that is also widely spread, that is teaching at one another's elbow and sharing responsibility for instruction. It is also very important, especially for young teachers, for the beginners, when they are extremely conscious of the problems they face in their career, and they want to train their students at their best. And it's extremely important to have a person who will share this responsibility and who will help and assist and maybe give some kind of advice in this process. Another point of view on co-teaching is an essential part of inclusive education, and it is really so, because when we deal with students with some special needs, we need some kind of assistant, and this assistant will be our colleague who will cooperate with us, who will support us, and who will assist and help the student who needs this assistance, guidance, and help. From the viewpoint of our presentation and our today's discussion, we treat co-teaching as a method of training pre-service English foreign language teachers, which is based on social constructivist approach. This approach in its turn is based on Lev Vygotsky concept of zone of proximal development, where students cooperate with each other, and that is the greatest source of their development, and they are moving forward in the process of training and learning. And in the process of cooperation, in the process of communication, they have an opportunity to improve their both language and language teaching skills. As a result, it helps us to organize such kind of training where our students cooperate not only with their peers of different levels, I mean their group mates and the students of the same year of studies, but also with the younger students, the younger peers, with different school children, and also with their English and English methodology teachers in particular. As a result, it helps us to make our training process more beneficial and provides lots of different advantages. First of all, that is provision of continual professional development. In the process of core teaching, we have an opportunity to enrich our knowledge and our skills, learning from our colleagues, because we permanently observe them. They share with us their expertise, and we have an opportunity to adopt these points of view, these ideas, and just modify them for our personal needs and for the needs of our students. In the process of co-teaching, we are also able to acquire new techniques and strategies, again, through observation and through our personal experience. Because in the process of co-teaching, it's inevitable to accept some suggestions from our colleagues to try their approaches, to try their techniques, to try their methods, and as a result, to get something new and interesting for us and for our students. As talking about teachers beginners, who are our students actually are, that is psychological support they get, and this feeling of comfort because they have a person who will take care of them, who will help, who will give a hand when they face some kind of problem or some kind of unexpected situation or accident, and will be there in order just to help. For students, this co-teaching practice is also beneficial. First of all, from the viewpoint of different methods and different techniques they are able to experience from different teachers who participate in this training process. And finally, if we talk about our students, we are to remember that it helps to meet their different needs, because again, different teachers will be focused on particular specific needs of different students and will pay more attention and will emphasize more some special needs, some needs which are not so important or which are just overlooked by other teachers. Talking about co-teaching models that are widely accepted in a modern teaching methodology, we can single out 5 main types. First of all, that is the model named one teach, one observe. It's easy to understand what it means. So here we see quite low level of collaboration between the participants of this co-teaching model, because we deal with observation and reflection on the teaching methods and techniques applied by a colleague or by our peer who is responsible for this teaching process. As a result, our role is quite passive. Our status with our peer or colleague is not equal, it's much lower, but still we have an opportunity to participate even in a passive way in this teaching process. Talking about the second model, that is model named One Teach, One Assist model. It's quite a bit different pair of shoes, because here level of our collaboration gets stronger. We get some more responsibilities in this process, because we usually combine in this teaching model main responsibilities, which usually belong to a teacher, and individual responsibilities, which are usually delegated to the assistant, whose task in this case is to meet some students' specific needs, to help those who are the brightest in class to move forward, or to help those who have some problems or struggling in their academic learning. And the task of this assistant is like this. Talking about the third model, it is named sequential model, and it is about shared and equal responsibility for the learning outcomes. It means that teachers just take turns delivering particular materials, providing particular practices, and each of them is responsible to the same extent for the results of teaching process and for the students' learning outcomes. Here, the level of collaboration is rather high, because teachers interchange their ideas, interchange their points of view, approaches, methods, techniques, and enrich each other and their status as equal, of course. Talking about the fourth model, it is named a station teaching model, and it belongs to the group term teaming model, because really here we work like a team where each participant has its own responsibility and should perform his or her own role in this process. In case of station teaching model, we observe a rotation of small groups of students between different stations, which are handled or led by co-teachers. And each co-teacher has its particular aim and his particular objectives, has its particular activities, methods, and techniques to be used in the process of training these small groups of students. And in such a way, they just circulate around the class, and they have an opportunity to study something new and interesting delivered by different teachers, and they have an opportunity to improve in such a way and not to get bored. So it's rather interesting how it works, and I will try to show it and to illustrate with the experience from me and my students. And finally, the last model, that is parallel teaching model. Talking about Ukrainian context, it is widely spread, because this model lies in the division of the class and provision of the instruction in several different groups. When we have huge classes in modern Ukrainian schools, some of them are divided into several groups, and each subgroup gets its own teacher, and they follow the same curriculum, but still they may use some different techniques, they may have their own methodological preferences, and that's why, in spite of the fact that they are working in parallel and they are trying to achieve the same objectives, they can do it in different ways. And as a result, students will have quite different experience in case of this parallel teaching model. So let us try to have a look how it can work in the context of training pre-service teachers. Because before they start the internship at university, and before they have their own opportunity to try themselves as English or other foreign language teachers, they move along long and difficult way of becoming a teacher. To my mind, the best idea to illustrate this first model will be the English proverb, which sounds like this: do not educate your children, they will still be like you, educate yourself. And it seems to me it works pretty well with our pre-service teachers. It's easy to imagine how often we copy our teachers, especially if we know that their methods work pretty well. And we repeat their practices, we try to reconstruct them in our classes, and we try to put it into effect. Sometimes it is a success, sometimes it is a failure, but that is the way how we train. At first, we copy, and then we try to contribute and to add something new and personal created by us. So the first model I'm going to comment on and about the ways how to to put it into effect in the preparation and training program of pre-service English teachers, that is one teach, one observe model. So talking about my students, we practice the following scene in terms of our English methodology class. They were invited to contribute to so-called Teach Inspire Padlet. It was its name. So their task was like this. They had to share their observations and conclusions on teaching techniques and methods and approaches they faced in their classes, delivered to them by their university teachers on a weekly basis. Their task was not just to observe, but their task was to analyze how their teachers used those methods and techniques, how their colleagues, their peers responded those techniques. Was they a success, or maybe something went wrong and the students did not get the idea of the teacher when he or she used this method or technique. And their task was to report on one teaching method or technique that appeared to be efficient or maybe inefficient to them in this Padlet, providing a poster on the wall. And of course, they were kindly asked to suggest possible applications and modifications of this method or technique under consideration for their own teaching practice, if it is applicable or not, why they liked this method or technique or why they did not like it. And another task was, of course, to get acquainted with the colleagues' comments and to comment their posts. So to give their opinion, if they enjoyed this method, if they paid attention to it, was it just useful to them or not. Here you can see the example of such a Padlet of some of the posts, and must admit that it's not so easy to make your colleagues to observe properly and to reflect. That is even more important, because we are to provide some prerequisites in order to make them to be ready to do this properly and to be open enough in order to be such methodology spies. First of all, we are to provide them with secure and friendly environment. Your students should be completely sure that you won't pass this information to your colleagues. You want to discuss it with them, that even if they criticize, it will be anonymous information. So that is some kind of trust you are to set between you and your students. Then you are to provide them with clear guidelines and examples how to write such kind of a post to show them that it's not a crime to analyze. It's not a crime to criticize, that one day one method works pretty well and the other day they may come to the classroom and it turns out that it does not work at all. The students are not in the proper mood and you are doing something wrong and you are not active enough, or maybe you are too slow, or again you are too fast, and it does not work at all. And that is observation as well. And here we are to search for some kind of roots of these problems, and we are to search for some kind of solution, and that is also training, and that is also co-teaching. And of course, you are to show them that your feedback, your response on their post will always be tolerant. So all the time, you will try to show them that this information is valuable, this information is useful, and this information will help and contribute to their development and professional growth. What outcomes do we expect when we ask our students observe us? Because not all the methods and techniques we apply in our English university classrooms are applicable to school environment, but still, as a result, our students will be able to observe actively, not just to judge, not just to criticize, but they will be able to observe constructively and provide proper analysis. They will be able to reproduce what they participated in and how it worked together. They will be able to adjust experienced teaching methods and techniques to their current teaching needs and maybe even learning needs. If we do not share this information with our colleagues, still we have an opportunity to stress that, you know, this method you used at your lesson was a great success among your students and they were talking about it all the time. Could you share it with me? So our teachers will be able to reflect on their teaching practices, and if they see that it is necessary, they will be able to modify their teaching methods and techniques because of the students' feedback. The next step or the next model that can be implemented to our traditional pre-service English teachers training will be the next model, and it serves the motto, the best way to learn is to teach. And it is really so. So the second model is one teach, one assist model. What ways of implementation of this model into the practice of university education and pre-service English teachers education at Ukrainian universities. Talking about our university, we have introduced and we have founded and started so-called Mentors School. Its motto is Stronger Together. What do I mean with this Mentors School and what is it about? Unfortunately, nowadays in Ukraine, we do not have a proper procedure of selection of our candidates to study foreign languages and to become foreign language teachers. As a result, we deal with multi-level students from the very beginning. Some of them are quite good at languages, while the others struggle with learning foreign languages, and they have obvious problems. And our task is to help them overcome those problems and still achieve their goal to become good foreign language teachers. That's why our mentor school works like this. We have two categories of participants. The first category is the category of mentors. Usually they are academically successful students, but at the same time, they are eager and ready to help their junior peers in their foreign language, in our case, English foreign language proficiency growth. They want to try themselves in teaching, and they have what to share, and they are good at languages enough in order to serve such kind of a mentor. What do they do? We select a group of mentees. So those students who are struggling, those who need some additional training, some additional attention and care for different reasons, those whom we do not want to lose just because they did not have an opportunity to master the language at a proper level when they were school children. As a result, our mentors provide extra classes on a weekly basis to their mentees. That is completely voluntary. So if our mentors agree and our mentees agree, they are paired, they are matched together, and they work together. About the procedure, I will tell a bit later. So what do our mentees want? Of course, they need some certain language practice and some practice of communication in English in order to facilitate their formal training success and mitigate current gaps that they have, in order to fill in this gap, which prevents them from being successful in studies. Our mentors should report on their mentees' training problems and should also tell us about their gains and their personal outcomes and findings on the monthly basis. Our mentees also should have reflect on their learning progress and formulate their current problems they are trying to cope with just now, and they should develop action plans on the monthly basis again. So that is some kind of communication, and that is some kind of feedback. Yes, we want our participants to provide us with in order to know where we are and where we should move further, as Tetiana has just mentioned in her presentation. Talking about mentors, we understand that they are not proficient enough in order to be full-time teachers, and sometimes they can face problems they are not able to fix on their own. That's why they get constant methodological support and guidance from us, their teachers, those who deal with them at this mentors school. Both parties, I mean mentors and mentees, they get some academic reward for sure, because they work extra hours and they improve their language skills, and not only language skills but their methodological skills as well. So here you can meet our team of mentors, and it works like this. The first three people you can see in the slide, they are the students of the second year of studies, so they serve as mentors for the freshmen. And this second part, I mean Valeria and Daria, they represent the third year of studies, so they serve as mentors for the second year students. In such a way, they are matched, and we see that they are working with their peers, but still their peers are of different levels of proficiency for sure. So here we can see our first reflections, because our mentor school has a rather short career and time span of operation, but still, due to these reflections from our mentors, we can single out some problems which are typical for modern struggling students at our specialties of preparing English pre-service teachers. For example, the first mentee needs speaking practice, and he gets this speaking practice due to his mentor, extra one. Talking about the second situation, we have quite different feedback, because that is the feedback to my mind of a real teacher. Yeah, so the teacher knows what is going on with her mentee. The teacher knows perfectly well how to prepare for the lesson. She is quite aware that she needs lots of different tasks to be selected or to be developed individually for her mentee, and so on and on and on. And she understands that materials are extremely important. Talking about our third mentor, we have another problem. She's quite popular with first-year students, and she had 2 mentees at a time, and she got an opportunity to choose with whom to work. That is another problem we face, because really sometimes we have more students who want to get some kind of support than those who are ready to provide this support. But that is invaluable experience. They set relationship, they communicate with each other, they help and support. And it's not only about teaching, and it's not only about training how to teach. Talking about another group of problems, yeah, we can see that some students can have problems connected with their health, and they do not know how to combine their health problem solution with their training process, and that is a problem. So they even struggle with the situation when and how to meet, nothing to say about what to talk about and what to do during their classes. And finally, we have the problem which is closely connected with the lack of motivation. And it is a real problem, because students who are struggling, they do not know what to do next. It seems to them that there is no way out, then that is a complete tragedy, and it's better just to forget about learning a foreign language. In this way, we need a mentor to show that, you see, I have learned and I will help, and you'll manage to do it together with me. So just follow me, and I'm here to support and to give you a hand. Talking about the main challenges we faced arranging our mentor school as an example of this co-teaching model named One Teach, One Assist. In this case, of course, a teacher. Teachers, yes, conventional teacher like you and me, and our students assist us. So they help and they support. The first problem we faced, that is the problem of matching the right mentor with the right mentee. All the people are different, and when we gather them together in one room, we had only one guy from the second year of studies, and he was the superstar. Everyone wanted to have him as a mentor, because most of the students we had to be mentees were ladies, and of course they were enchanted and they wanted to work with him. But we are to select them according to their personal qualities, according to their character features, and according to the problems they face. I need to know that this person will be the right mentor, will help, support, and will be suitable from different perspectives. Then we are to struggle and to keep them motivated to start and to proceed working together. So the most difficult thing is to start, to find time, to arrange schedule, and to understand how it all works together. Because if they like and enjoy this experience, there is no need to control and to ask, have you met this week? For sure they did. And they will tell you what they do, what kind of exercises they performed, and so on and on and on. And one more thing, we need this timely feedback, because we need to know where we are, we need to know what they are doing. And that is a great feedback in a direct one, when you see that your person who is part of the team of this mentor school, who is a mentee, makes progress. And then you understand what the root, what the source of this progress. And you understand that your idea with mentor school works not badly. So the next model, that is sequential model. It seems pretty easy, yes, because it's clear that we are to do something in shifts. And here we can just switch between a teacher and a student, and so on and on and on. How to implement it in ordinary class? So first of all, talking about my personal experience, I practiced it a lot last year when I had English grammar course. I used this model in order to involve my students in the explanation of a certain theoretical aspect on grammar, for example. It can be both prepared or spontaneous. It works pretty well in case of flipped learning, when your students had to work on some material at home and you prepared lots of useful information to them, and then you need just to check up if everything is okay with their flipped learning process. Then you may ask them to make either short presentations, and it will be prepared teaching, theoretical teaching, or you can do it just at the lesson when they can do it spontaneously after your explanation, and so on and on and on. Another way to involve your students in this core teaching model is to lead a certain in-class activity, or to give them an opportunity to lead a certain in-class activity. It can be prepared by you exercise, but it can be carried out and delivered by your student. And you can see in what way it will be introduced, in what way it will unfold, what feedback and what kind of assessment or conclusion your student will make, and it will be also helpful. Then you may involve your students even in selection and development, and even presenting short exercises in class according to a particular topic. You can also ask your students to participate in the development of assessment rubric. It's extremely important when we deal with some kind of productive activities or productive speech activities, such as speaking or writing or something closely connected with them. So they can develop these assessment rubrics independently. So each student will have his or her own list of criteria and descriptors, how it all works and how to assess. In such a way, they will show how they understand the idea of performing a particular activity and their objective, their aim to be trained to perform it. Then it can be done collaboratively in teams, all together in class, and together with the teacher, with teacher's assistants or without it. But it's again an interesting experience, and our students, even first-year students, can do it quite efficiently. Then we can involve our students into peer assessment procedure, and that is also about core teaching, because then your student becomes some kind of a partner. He delivers, or she delivers you an interesting feedback and interesting information, which is given from on behalf of the students. So it's quite different point of view, it's quite different perspective, and we are to train them how to provide this objective and constructive peer assessment. And of course, in most cases, it is qualitative, it's not quantitative, it's not about scores, it's about feedback for sure. So, and finally, my favorite one, the fourth model of core teaching, that is station teaching model. And we practiced it as well with my first-year students last summer. And it took place in a language camp in June 2023. And here I have the procedure of this station teaching model implementation. So what was the idea? Language camp worked for the school children from all over Poltava, my native city, and they came to our university to participate in a language camp. And we had, let us say, entertain them during a week. And we decided to involve our first-year students just because they were extremely active and they wanted to try themselves in teaching. So their eyes were just shining with enthusiasm. And we decided, why not? So what have we decided to do? We decided to recruit a team of core teachers, only students who were willing, only those who were full of ideas and who wanted to do it. The second step was to select a common topic and develop a game plot, because it must be station, yes? So the group of children must be split into teams and they must rotate or circulate around the classroom and do something. In such a way, each participant of our core teaching team got an opportunity to try himself or herself in his own teaching procedure. It was up to him or her to decide what to do, how to behave, how to respond, how to help children, and so on and on and on. But we decided to incorporate it into a game plot. And we decided to develop a procedure, so how it will work when children come to us. After that, we decided that this plot, this game, will be named Grammarland, because we worked on grammar, that we are going to have 4 stations. One station belonged to me, and I just moderated this station. And the other 3 stations were moderated by my co-teachers, my colleagues, my students. So we allocated personal tasks. So first of all, I gave freedom to my students to choose what particular tenses they are interested in, and they had to select the tasks they were going to offer to the school children. They developed those tasks. Moreover, they decided on their own that it would be a great idea to practice doing these exercises themselves in order to see how much time it would take and if it had a relevant difficulty level. And it was interesting to me because, frankly speaking, I have not even thought about it. After that, when our school children arrived, we worked with them on the tasks we prepared. It was necessary to do it quickly because we had about 10 minutes for each station. Each team of school children had their own roadmap, so it was necessary to guess what tense was coded in the description. They need to go to a particular station. So the first student's task was to decide if they found the right station, first of all. And then they delivered them the tasks they had. And when children performed those tasks, they just put some kind of scores to their roadmap and they moved further. In the process of doing these tasks, students had to adjust their tasks and the activities for the school children's level. And it was a challenge because nobody knew what level of language proficiency our school children would demonstrate. Also, they needed to monitor the game flow. So it was necessary to finish in time in order not to create some traffic jam in our movement around the classroom. Finally, when one set or one circle of the game was completed, when we finished with one class, it was clear to us that it was necessary to reflect on your team performance. So it was necessary to comment what was good and what was bad and what should be improved, because in 10 minutes, the next group of school children had to arrive and we had to correct our tasks, to correct our activity, to correct our behavior as teachers in order to make it go even smoother than it was before. So that is the plan. Here you can see some pictures of our co-teaching of our grammar land. By the way, my students made a video of their feedback where they share the impressions of participating in this project, in this co-teaching program. But unfortunately, they were such boasters in this video that I decided not to incorporate it into my presentation. So what are the advantages of station teaching model? First of all, our pre-service teachers manage local situation independently. So I'm there to help. I observe them. I see in what way they behave. If I see that they are struggling with something, I'm here to help for sure. But if I see that everything is okay and they are able to do everything on their own, I do not interfere. They feel support at the same time from me, from their teacher, and as a result, they feel safe. It was obvious how gradually with each new group of school children, they adopted those positive practices they developed in the process of participating in this project, and they just took away those which were not productive. It was a real reward to me, frankly speaking. Pre-service teachers also had an opportunity to deliver the same activities several times. So as a result, they could fix their performance here on the spot based on their previous experience. So it was quite natural reflection which took place, and it was a real learning we aim at in our process of teaching pre-service teachers. And they got real school children's feedback. And that is marvelous because children were happy. They were happy to win if they were the first. They were happy to get to know something new. And they treated those students like their friends. And it was something incredible just for my students, really. And even for me, because when you are in this team, you feel that that is your idea, and it works pretty well. So also they should follow common rules and regulations. That is important. You have to explain to them from the very beginning that you are not able to stay with particular team longer than you want, than it is provided by the rules. So you are to be quick enough. You are to help others if they need this help, and so on and on and on. Pre-service teachers can wait their teacher to come and help. That is also nice. So they can ask me for help, and I'm there there to help. They can observe me teaching, yeah, and the tempo of this turnover is rather high. It is exhausting. We provided 4 sessions per day, and must admit that it was exhausting. It was a tense period, but it was extremely rewarding. And moreover, our school children were always different. So the feedback our students got, the responses they got, they were different all the time. So it was a new experience again and again.
Tetiana,
So what?
Tetiana, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. We have run out of time. And so maybe we can leave some of these. Maybe you can go back to the assessments, leave that on the screen if people want to read. But we just want to check if there's any questions as we wrap up. I'm so sorry. I know there's so many wonderful things to talk about. But I just want to check if there were any questions. I did see one in the chat about the year, what school year the mentors are in.
Talking about the mentors, the mentors who participate at our mentors school for pre-service teachers, they are the students of the 3rd and 2nd year of studies.
In the university?
At university, yeah.
Okay. So I think that was the question, unless someone needed some clarification. Are there any other questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, and we have just come of so Tetiana, if you want to just take a moment to maybe give one key point on this about assessments, and then I think we will have to wrap up because we have come to time.
So talking about assessment, for sure, assessment here plays an important role because we are to be extremely accurate with assessment issues. That is creative activity. That is the first experience in teaching, in core teaching. That's why we are to arrange assessment in the following way. All team members should evaluate their own performance, their peers' performance, their teachers' performance, and their performance as a team. It's important. They need to verbalize the ideas and they need to put it into words and to explain why they think so. Then the criteria should be developed collaboratively, discussed, approved, and illustrated with relevant performance patterns. So we are to explain to them what is good and what is bad from the very beginning, what is allowed and what is not allowed in the process of this core teaching. Then we should apply qualitative assessment, and it should be a priority. So feedback, some kind of comment, and Tetiana told us about it perfectly well. Then we should involve some critical analysis, and we are to explain to them that any critics should be constructive and it should be fair. I do not criticize just because I want to criticize. I criticize because I know that it must be like this, and I know that it had some negative outcomes. For example, in our core teaching experience, I had a situation when my student managed to engage a school boy into her activity, and I acknowledge that I was rather passive. I decided that let it be. If the boy doesn't want to participate, let him not participate, okay? And she struggled up till the end of the activity. And of course, I appreciated this, and I recognized that she managed to do it much better than I actually did. Then reflection is the key to success in learning from experience. And that is also, yeah.
Yes, I'm saying, Tetiana, if you'd like to move on to the next one as well and show us a little bit about the reflection cycle, as you were talking about.
Talking about reflection cycle, and that is really so. We do not learn from our experience if we do not reflect on it. So only then we learn from everything that is happening to us. This reflection cycle by Gibbs is a well-known one, and it involves 6 main steps. That is experience description. What happened? So what did we do in order to co-teach together? Then it's emotional background, and it's extremely important. So how did you feel when you performed that? And what kind of mood or what kind of emotional background have you experienced when you completed it? I have such a great criteria of success in some kind of teaching. I say when I am happy to hear the clicking of my heels downstairs after the lesson, I know that everything is perfectly well. And it does not matter better what was going on, because I understand that my mood is elevated, and it is elevated due to the response of my students. That's why emotional background is extremely important. Then experience evaluation, what was positive and what was negative. For sure, we are to find negative aspects as well. Then experience analysis, what caused success or failure. So what was the reason that everything went smoothly, or what was the reason that we had some kind of breakdowns? And it must be summing up of the experience. What else could we do? So where we haven't managed to complete it better. So, and what have we learned from this? And finally, our action plan. What will we do next? Talking about our co-teaching experience, of course, it was the question, will we do something like this again or not? And the response of my students was, of course, we'll do for sure. Just tell us and we'll come.
Thank you, Tetiana. And we have an interesting question in the chat as well. If anyone wants to respond as well to that about the teaching materials in the Ukraine. And maybe that is something that for all our Ukrainian educators that you can share with each other. Thank you so much, Tetiana, for also for rushing at the end. So sorry about that. But there's so much wonderful information about co-teaching that can be shared. And so we want to thank you, Tetiana, for all that you've shared about co-teaching, especially about how you use the station teaching model. Tetiana, thank you so much as well for giving us some wonderful ideas and approaches for constructive, timely feedback to use with our students. And again, how co-teaching and feedback really can empower our students and lend to building their social and emotional competencies. So thank you so much. So as we end, I just want to remind you all that if you would like to join the next webinar, that will be on content and language integrated learning. That will be this Saturday. So for those across Europe, Africa, and further east into Asia, this will be in the afternoon, evening on Saturday. And for those based in South America, United States, and elsewhere to the west, this will be Saturday morning. So here is the QR code if you would like to sign up and partake. We would love to have you. Again, this will be recorded, and the presentations and the recording will be shared later by my colleagues at Childhood Education International. I will stop the recording now, but if there's any questions or thoughts, I will stay online for that. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining today.